Okay. Wow. You know I don't review every Call of Duty game. When I sit down to review a Call of Duty game, it's because I feel real strong about something, either positively or negatively, whether it be Black Ops, Cold War, or Infinite Warfare, or World War II. There are just moments throughout the Call of Duty life cycle that I feel compelled to say something. In the case of Modern Warfare 3, the title already tells you, this is definitely going to be a pretty negative take on the game, because I am stunned at how low the quality mark for this campaign is, and the fact that Activision is comfortable charging $70 for this is an absolute disgrace. Anyway, I've got a lot to say. I got a lot to get off my chest here, but before we begin, we just got to get a quick word from today's sponsor. Have you ever wanted to live in an urban fantasy world? I know I have. Well, look no further than Zenless Zone Zero. Experience the captivating world of ZZZ, a gripping new action RPG available on PC, consoles, and mobile. If you know Hoyoverse, then you know how they nail the art for their games. Think of something like Genshin Impact, think of something like Honkai Star Rail, and Zenless Zone Zero has a stylish blend of art and funky music where futuristic urban vibes meet pop culture. The combat speaks for itself. I mean, just look at it on screen. It's absolutely incredible looking. It's practically movie-like thanks to its insane visuals, and you'll have access to various unique characters, each armed with their own unique set of weapons and skills, giving you the freedom to switch between different combat styles on the fly. So, what are you waiting for? If this looks incredible to you, all you have to do is sign up. If you wanted to discover the hype for yourself, click the link in the description down below and register for the beta test for when it comes out, and you'll be ready to go into some Zenless Zone Zero. It goes well and beyond the fact that this was a 3.5-hour runtime. I had time yesterday to play Baldur's Gate 3. I know we had an extra hour on Sunday, but I had time to play Baldur's Gate 3. I had time to meal prep. I had time to exercise, go on a walk with my dogs, and finish this game. This game was just a small piece of my day. And when I beat it, I was in such disbelief because it truly ends as it does feel like it's beginning. It's almost like it was DLC. And there were a lot of warning shots. But when I finished it, I had to check the price tag. And to see it going for $70 really did stun me. Now, I know there's more to the package in multiplayer and zombies, which look like tragedies unto themselves, which I'll get into. But with the campaign offering here, this is despicable. And there's a lot of lying here that you need to be aware of, such as when Jason Schreier reported over at Bloomberg, hey, this used to be DLC, now it's turning into a full game. I had an open mind to this because we saw that with Assassin's Creed Mirage, and I thought it turned out all right. Was it my favorite game? No, but a lot of people really dug it, and it showed that we can evolve these tighter experiences into something a little more big. But the disingenuous part is, while Activision and Sledgehammer are like, no, it's the next full Call of Duty game, even though we just got MW2 last year. And I was thinking, okay, this story's probably going to be pretty bad, right? And you see how when you load the game up on PS5, the trophy list is attached to Modern Warfare 2, like DLC. And there isn't even a platinum trophy if you wanted to go for that, which I find to be a particular shame because I like going for the Call of Duty campaign trophies and achievements. They're actually a fun time, and it shows you just the slight nuances and little challenges built into these campaigns. I'm sure you all have gone for like the Mile High Club achievement in Modern Warfare. But point being is these campaigns can be great. Some of my favorites are Black Ops 2, Black Ops Cold War, and you notice there's a similarity between the two in that I like the mind-bendy nature of them, the shock factor of them, but I also like the choices. And I like that the game's campaigns manage to build up a cast of characters in a meaningful way without really any sort of compensation or trade-offs, and also they're games that are not afraid to slow down. I think of the embassy mission in Black Ops Cold War where you're able to roam around and there's choices, there's a sense of freedom in the experience. And I was of the belief this is where the Call of Duty campaigns should go. That mixture of the, Michael Bay set piece alongside openness and freedom. So when Modern Warfare 3's campaign was confirmed to have these, quote, sandbox missions, I was actually really pumped about this because it made me think of Halo Infinite. Halo Infinite is a game that is known for its campaign sandbox. And while I had complaints about it narratively, I really enjoyed playing through the story because there were so many ways to approach any situation. The idea of Call of Duty with some of the best gunplay in the business, taking what sounded like a similar approach, to me, that was really cool. And my God, was it a complete failed attempt here. And I can't even blame Sledgehammer, although I've historically never liked their Call of Duty games since the very start. Anytime I see Sledgehammer outside of World War II, I'm usually like, oh boy, here we go. So to me, this is par for the course, but I know some people really do like what they do. But I can't even blame them here. They had to turn this game out quick. In that circumstance, maybe the game is kind of impressive, but really we got to go for Activision here. And I hope Xbox is making note of this reception here, because this feels like the beginning of the end of an annualized franchise, because it cannot go on like this if this is what we're going to get. If any type of bump in the road gets hit and this is how you shoehorn a $70 product onto the market, we want no part of it. So I hope Xbox is paying attention to this and understands that it may be important to break up the Call of Duty cycle sometimes for the better of the product, because there are points in this game where if there was more time in the oven, I genuinely think it could have been pretty good. All right, so let's start off with the story. Makarov is in the picture. You start off the game breaking him out of the gulag. And long story short, this dude's trying to manufacture a war. And on a baseline level, the themes of Modern Warfare 3's campaign are possibly more prevalent than ever, which honestly, they had the chance to say something interesting, something compelling. But the problem with the story, at least one of them, is that it never takes time to say anything interesting at all, which again, with a 3.5-hour runtime, you really never will be able to say something on such serious subjects with meaning at all. Probably the biggest takeaway for me with Modern Warfare 3's story is the absolute failure to understand big moments in Call of Duty's history and trying to replicate them in disingenuous ways. I am thinking of what I believe is the most popular mission in Call of Duty history, No Russian, right? This is a mission so big that it was hitting mainstream media. It naturally brought back the conversation of, are games bad for humans? Are they training us to kill? And so on and so forth. But there was a major narrative punch and shock and awe to that moment there. So much so that you could actually choose to skip that mission if you were sensitive to this sort of material. But it was going for a major gut punch to set up another large chunk of Modern Warfare 2's story. Whereas Modern Warfare 3 tries to have a similar, we'll say, public terror moment, but it does so in such a shoehorned manner that they clearly are going for the shock and awe of, look, bad people killing civilians, bad, right? But the game never demands you to think beyond that, because the script is so woefully undercooked and the moments feel so haphazardly stitched together. It's so all over the place that it just doesn't understand the meaning of those missions. To me, that's arguably beyond the price in the terms of content and quality. The biggest crime of all is that they tried to replicate these moments in such a rushed manner. It reminds me of a wrestler cutting a promo in the middle of the ring, and they say something really out of pocket to try to get a cheap pop, like a sort of cheap boo out of people. Because like, I'm gonna say something really wrong here. Certainly they'll boo because I have nothing else of quality to say. That's what it really reminded me of in the Modern Warfare 3 campaign. So it goes beyond the runtime. It's just what's within it is also such low quality. But when you look beyond all that, as you get deeper into the campaign, I did mention how there are, I like how I say deeper, like it's this elongated experience. Once you get to the tail end of what is an afternoon experience, what you'll find is a story that is actually ramping up. And by the last, I'd say 2 to 3 missions, I was pretty into what was happening here. There was a steady, slow build. And we'll talk about one of the new additions to the gameplay formula that I have a real issue with. But there was this moment toward the end of the game where I went, okay, this can turn into something. And then it ends. It ends in a part that's so unfulfilling, so clearly DLC, right? So clearly a tease of like, and we'll see you next year, that it's really heartbreaking, man. It's heartbreaking that a story that was on such a good trajectory got derailed like this. I hate to bring Star Wars into it, but in the terms of the zeitgeist, the conversation, a new set of directors taking the story in a completely new direction, yeah, this feels like the Last Jedi kind of moment for the series, where we just swapped teams who were working on this, who had this vision in back-to-back games, or in the case of Force Awakens, one movie. We go over to Rian Johnson, it just goes out here. It just goes left, right? That's pretty much what happened with Sledgehammer, and now for whatever happens next in Modern Warfare, because the story's not done here, right? At least in the originals, it wrapped up in 3 games, but it's not done here, so they're going to have to do a Modern Warfare 4 or DLC, God willing, and wrap this thing up. At least the campaign demands that. Otherwise, it struggles a ton with pacing, which in such a short window of time You'd think the least they could do here, in my opinion, is provide a rip-roaring campaign for 3.5 hours that at least you walk away from it going, man, that was really good. I wish there was more to it, right? And it's almost a guilty pleasure at the end of the day, but you can't even get that. Interspersed throughout what feel like vertical slices, demos to show off to the publisher, like, what do you think of this? You know, the Call of Duty missions that kind of play themselves are these weapons-free missions, which are open area objectives. You're dropped into a map and you can go across one of multiple objectives. There's no real side content here, which I thought there was a good opportunity for that. Probably the most egregious component of this game is the absolute recycling of Warzone here. Like, you drop into these maps from Warzone and they're just playing the campaign through them. And look, for someone like me who's played maybe a couple hours of Warzone because I'm not really into Battle Royale, I saw it immediately. I went, this is cheap as hell, man. This is so cheap. This is filler content because we didn't have the time or the budget maybe to make a full Call of Duty campaign. So we're literally reusing the Warzone maps and popping AI in there. Here's the biggest problem though with the gameplay. I've seen a lot of reviews online. Once I finished it, I was like, I gotta know what people are saying about this. That was terrible, right? I go through, obviously people like, yo, gunplay's still great. At what point do we just stop? Look, I know we got to give the game some sort of kudos, right? And Call of Duty's always had decent gunplay, but that's not saving shit here. The Call of Duty campaigns were fun because it was the mixture of the gunplay with the big set piece moment and how you interacted with it, right? I go back to what I said with No Russian in MW2. It hit hard because you were holding the controller. You played a part in this travesty, right? You could feel it more. But MW3 plays its biggest moments through crummy little cutscenes with very little attachment to the characters. And when you get dropped into these open world missions, so to say, they're quick, over in a flash, but more than anything, it highlights how bad the gameplay is. Yes, you can point and shoot fine, but the AI in this game is so tremendously bad. When it comes to these missions, when it's your standard Call of Duty mission, they work fine. You know, they run out into cover, they poke out, shoot at you, they function as they should. But when they're in these open world sections, they're just running out at you constantly. They're never protecting themselves, and that's all fine, right? It's a shooting gallery at the end of the day. But the biggest sin of it all, if you play this campaign, you'll see it, is how you thought Cyberpunk 2077's police system was bad, how enemies are just spawning on you constantly when you commit one crime. This game is that on steroids, in my opinion. It's far worse than anything I experienced in vanilla Cyberpunk 2077 when it came to enemies spawning on me. So you'll go through these missions, and the ideal way to play them is through stealth. You don't want to get caught. If an enemy is kind of sus of you, you'll see your mini-map turns yellow, and when it's red, a siren goes off, and everyone's on you. It's weird because the stealth is kind of broken where it's very difficult to hide once you get caught. Like, you'll go into a building where no one's nearby, close all the doors, and they'll still find you and track you down. Okay, I guess I can live with that. It's Call of Duty campaign. You want me to run around and shoot. Fine, I get the objective there. But it's more so that as I'm running around, more and more enemies are spawning out of thin air, crawling out of these vents out of no. It's just, remember how Call of Duty campaigns used to get critiqued, like with World at War, for example, to have monster closets? For those who don't know what that terminology is, monster closets are defined as endless spawning enemies that keep running at you until you as the player reach a particular physical marker in the environment that then pushes the enemy spawns back some more. So if they're flying out of the woods until I get up to the bunker, then they'll stop flying out of the woods. They'll stop spawning. But until then, they're going to keep spawning these enemies, have them continue to run at me. And this game is that times like 40. It's a return to the worst gameplay formula in a Call of Duty campaign. But beyond any enemy spawning problems, it's just down to the lack of mission variety. There's one mission where you're just walking around an embassy, and if you go near anyone, there's no like detection meter or anything. You'll just hear someone say like, she doesn't belong here, and they'll just shoot you on the spot. It's clearly rushed. It's clearly stitched together. There's no mission variety here. And when you get to the open missions, I gotta say that there's so many Warzone elements, it's distasteful. There are supply boxes and there's random weapons in there, and you're gonna find random equipment all scattered throughout, your armor plates, your snapshot pulses, and so on and so forth. It's all here. Welcome to Warzone, but it's a campaign. I really like the idea of this sandboxy Call of Duty campaign. I say this because I think of, say, the opening of Call of Duty Modern Warfare 3's campaign, where you're using a rappel gun and ascending this castle-like structure. It's awesome. You're breaking into the gulag, but it's all through contextual actions. Press R2 and then your character starts rising up. And I remember seeing that when they first began to promote Modern Warfare 3, and my immediate thought was, imagine we could just do that on our own. That would be awesome, right? And that's why I was excited about sandbox open level missions. Maybe with all these gadgets Call of Duty has created throughout the years, they could make these really unique, interactive gameplay environments, but everything is stiff, static, stagnant, and there's very little happening here. There's enemies just haphazardly wandering around, no real rhyme or reason for their placement. When you take them out, somehow they'll still get alerted, they'll endlessly spawn on you as you run around and shoot your way through a level, and it's over as quick as it started. It's terrible. Some of these open level missions don't have any squad mate interaction. One of the things that makes Call of Duty campaigns tick, in my opinion, is the little interactions, like the synchronized silent shot, right? We all know that moment. But when you look at the open missions, I like that they provide a different flavor, and I think the gameplay freedom is a welcome change, something that if they build upon could be a great pillar for future Call of Duty campaigns. But when they're just voiceover comms that are merely commenting on like going inside or nice kill for one, that type of stuff, it just, like there is so many little bits of opportunity left on the table, and now this game is going to get so blasted that I don't think Activision will ever go near this type of formula again, which is a shame because I think the same thing happened for Infinite Warfare. I had a lot of critiques about that game, but I like the idea of going from planet to planet, having side missions. Sure, it still ended up being like a 6-7 hour game, but I love the approach. And because that game got so blasted, well, Activision never went near that style of Call of Duty again. And it's a shame because I think some are afraid of change, but sometimes the change just isn't implemented well, and that doesn't mean we don't want to see them try again. So from runtime to storytelling quality to not understanding what makes Call of Duty campaigns good, it's frustrating. And what the saddest part is when it really starts getting going toward the end, maybe less with mission quality and variety, but at least with something narratively with some good set piece punches, you at least start to feel something is ramping up, and then it ends. And it ends in such a forceful manner that Activision should be ashamed putting this out. Like, this alone is disgusting. And then you look at Zombies, which is now open world. I don't know what I'm gonna sound like old man shouting in the clouds, but I don't know what's happened with Zombies over the years. I remember with World at War when it started off as just like tight areas, unlockables, arcadey, and then it evolved with Black Ops, and then every game needed zombies. It wasn't just a Treyarch thing. Every game needed zombies until it became less meaningful. And now, you guessed it, it's all filtered through Warzone. Again, it's open worldish again. Same stuff you've seen in Warzone again. I'm not trying to slander Warzone. I know a lot of people really like it, but to see them constantly filtering things through this, at a certain point, I feel like Zombies is just going to need to be its own game. Inevitably, it'll turn into a live service product that they'll just keep adding more and more maps to. But to me, I just feel like walking away from the more secluded, atmospheric approach to Zombies in lieu of more Warzone-y stuff, like, you're really fragmenting an already fragmented player base. And the multiplayer, it's all remastered MW2 maps. The writing is on the wall. This game, you can buy it at some point, and I'm sure you wouldn't lose your mind over everything here, but buy it at like $20 most. This game is DLC, treated as such. Ladies and gentlemen, that's all I've got for you today. Let me know your thoughts on Modern Warfare 3 down below. Other than that, I'll catch you in the next video. Stay sexy, stay active. I love you all. Peace.